It's time now for the Ask the Mayor program here on your hometown news station, AM 1300 KGLO, and streaming live online at KGLOAM.com and on our KGLO News Facebook page. As typically, first Wednesday of the month, we typically talk with Mason City Mayor John Lee, who's not around to join us today. And we welcome back behind the KGLO microphone, City Administrator here in Mason City, Aaron Burnett. Thanks for agreeing to pinch hit.
Always great to be here. Always good to talk about what's going on and catch up.
Well, let's talk first of all about that bike park opening, which was a great weekend here in Mason City to get that officially open, and a lot of people got to use it.
I didn't see you out there jumping. I don't know.
No,
you must have missed your opportunity there.
I didn't want to become one of the few injuries. No, just kidding.
You and me both. No, it was really exciting. Obviously, we've been working on this between applying for a grant to design and concept to actual construction, and now with the opening. It is a long process to get to that point where you see people doing crazy stuff and jumping off. And it was a really exciting day between the food trucks, the spectators who were riders, the spectators who were just there to see somebody maybe fall off something, to the kids just all over the place, novice riders, experienced riders. Just a really exciting day. And I think the part that struck me the most about having that opening was just the average age of the person out there. It is, something really for a lot of the youth, and, there are a lot of people who are in excess of, 60 years old out there having a great time riding. I, at 46, feel as though I've outgrown my years doing anything like that, but there were, adventurous souls of all ages, and really, really good to know, as a community, as a council, as a park board, making this investment that it really is doing exactly what it's supposed to.
And you mentioned the youth. Obviously, when we look at the population of Mason City, it's getting older. And once again, the baby boom generation is getting older, and that's, a big part of our population. And trying to, for lack of better ways to put it, backfill with some younger people, getting them into Mason City is key to at least keep the population stable.
Yeah, it's something I brought up when I gave my the ribbon cutting speech is, we talk about doing cool things like the Prairie Rock Trails, undoubtedly very cool project. And it's fun to see those images and those videos and the excitement that follows with it. But it's a very calculated maneuver by the city and by the economic development and business interests to really lean into how do we build a community that really is something that is attractive when people choose where they locate. Like realistically, across this country, there's a lot of jobs and a lot of places you can call home. How do we make Mason City the most competitive version of a place for people to raise their families? And so with that, I think that's where you see the city do a lot of effort in placemaking, like the Riverwalk, like Prairie Rock Trails, and like all the other investments we've made in outdoor recreation, because that is something when people consider, where do I want to call home? Whether they're a doctor being recruited by Mercy, or a, lawyer, or, somebody who's going to be a plant manager. These are really high need positions. And when we go and recruit those positions, those people have choices. And, our former residents of Mason City have choices whether they choose to come back, after they finish their college degree. And so, having these amenities really makes us a more attractive place for when they have to make that consideration. And so, those investments are not just, while they are fun and they're exciting and everyone goes woo at those things, it really is a message of, we're a community that's looking towards the future and continuing to work to build that population, to make sure we have thriving businesses, thriving schools, and thriving organizations within our community.
And it was good, to see this project brought forward by a group of people, kind of a grassroots effort, and saying, hey, we think this can work in Mason City. There's a great one down in Bentonville, Arkansas, but there's really no place else to go in the in the central part of the United States, and let's get this thing built.
Yeah, and those are really, as a city, as a community leader, I think those are the times where um, having elected officials and having you know civic organizations and whatnot that listen to these impassioned people who have a vision. It might not be your vision. I know, you and I could go on a tandem bike and go do these
Right.
jumps, but we're probably not the target audience. So, like it's not my vision. I didn't even know what a bike park was when we
Right.
started talking about this. I'm not an avid cyclist, but we do have a group within Mason City, and they're tapped into a larger group in the region and across the country. And it is a very quickly growing sport and pastime. And so, as I heard their vision, and the council heard their vision, the park board heard their vision, um, there were very few people who had any knowledge of what they were talking about, but we all got excited by the vision that they have and came alongside to help support them, to seek out the funding and to seek out the ability to carry this thing forward. And so I think, communities, at least, from my view of the state of Iowa and across the country of the cities that I've been fortunate enough to witness their successes or failures, the ones that are really successful, the ones that listen to those groups, because when they come along and look for that partnership, if you're not quick to say, how do we help you make this happen, um, unfortunately, sometimes you're going to lose that sort of passion. You're going to lose that volunteering within your community because they just don't feel heard anymore. They don't feel supported. And I think as a city, that's tragic, because we need everyone who wants to build a community and make it a better place. And those don't always look like just your normal elected officials. Sometimes they're somebody on a bike doing crazy things. So.
Speaking of elected officials, obviously, you have a new mayor that's been on the job for 5 months, and a mostly unchanged city council now 5 months into the new year. And, just talk about obviously the transition of the mayor's position. And like I say, it's been a mostly unchanged city council. John Lee obviously moving out of his council seat to be the new mayor. But, just talk about this first 5+ months of the year and, how this council's been working well.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic council. I get the ability to tell my counterparts in other communities how blessed I am with a really just a great council to work with. I think they really do take their elected official, their being a representative of their community role very seriously, and get out and talk at service clubs, meet with people. Obviously we've had some conversations over this last 5 months that there's been a lot of citizens that want to provide input. Amen. That's the role of the elected official, and they've really been out there doing that. And so it makes my job a lot easier when citizens feel that they have their elected officials easily accessible. And then also the elected officials, like Mayor Lee, communicating regularly with me about what they've heard out within the community. And so I think that's just, governance 101. As a local government, you better listen to the people, because it's what you're supposed to do. But also, if you don't, you do so at your own peril. So I think it's been fantastic. John Merrily has really stepped into that role, obviously with his experience on council, well suited to be able to take on the role of mayor, obviously following huge shoes to, not literally, maybe a little bit smaller than John's shoes, but Mayor Schickel, obviously just an absolute pillar of the community, held that role for decades, and just one of the community's greatest assets and cheerleaders. So a little tough to follow that act, but John's doing a great job, and I think if people haven't had a chance to talk to him or meet him, I don't know how. If you're a young person, you probably had him in school, and he's out and about all the time. But he's really, I think, going to be a great leader for our community.
City Administrator here in Mason City, Aaron Burnett, joining us on the Ask the Mayor program here on KGLO. We taped the program on Wednesday after the Tuesday night council meeting. So if we say last night, keep that in mind as we go along the timeline here. But last night, Tuesday night, I guess however we want to put it, got a new city finance director hired.
Yeah, that is really exciting. Obviously, losing Brent Hinson is really tough. He's been just a critical asset for the city with his role as deputy city administrator and finance director. Moving to get that finance director position filled. You look across the state and you're like, well, who's out there? Who can we get? Cole rose to the top. Cole Bockelman rose to the top. He's somebody I've actually known for quite a few years now. Previous city administrator in Humboldt, Iowa. Great person, very knowledgeable. I think, having him on the Mason City team in that finance director position, again, big shoes to fill, but he's going to be a great asset, and I think work perfectly with me. I look forward to you getting a chance to chat with him a little bit, because he's also funny, good guy to talk to too. So that which is always critical. I want to work with fun people, so glad to have him on board.
I'd try my best with you. So. Also, on Tuesday night's council meeting, got an update on the Brownfields community-wide assessment, which, looking city getting a grant to be able to do that. And of course, looking at several different assessments, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The EPA Brownfields grant is, possibly one of the least exciting things next to budget that we'll talk about on your show. But it is really important. Like, there's these spaces that you just see as kind of like dead blank spaces within the community. Something used to be there. And oftentimes the things that was there is the reason that the space is still blank, is because there's some sort of contamination. There's some sort of difficulty, whether it's, really old foundations or a leaky tank or, a former dry cleaner or whatever. You go back in time and you look at the history of these places, right, and that's why it's not been built out. There might be some other difficulty, but most of the time there's some sort of historical reason why that hasn't been built out, if it's in the, if it's an infill lot within the community. So with this EPA grant, we've been able to go out, identify those issues, try and figure out a path towards remediation and get them back to being useful. I mean, one of the things that we hear often is, trying to really use the infrastructure and the limits of the city as best as possible. The denser a community, the more walkable it is, et cetera, but these spaces, a perfect example would be River 2. That's an old brownfield site that's been redeveloped. Where Home 2 Suites is, that's a gray field that was underutilized. River 1, that's another underutilized. It was a parking lot that sat vacant all the time.
Right.
So we have these examples of places that might have been a great place to do a donut or something along those lines, but really probably not serving the community in its highest function. And so this grant, we're wrapping it up now. We've currently got another EPA grant that we're applying for Mohawk Square, hoping to get that remediated. That's really in just absolutely atrocious condition after being exposed to the elements for more than 5 years. And so we've got to get that addressed. Hopefully we'll get that funding, but working through these different processes, we're able to address, structures and lots that are really problems for our community. And, EOC and the whole team with the city has just been really good about working through these. They're long adventures into resolving them. But if we don't do it, then it'll sit for another 3 decades before somebody else takes a shot at it. So I view it as kind of my responsibility to wade into some of these areas to make sure that 3 decades from now we still have useful business as opposed to just an empty lot. So,
is there really any type of a timeline on Mohawk Square with what you've just said? With once again, like you say, the building is in atrocious condition. It's been open to the elements for a number of years now, but I'm guessing that's going to be a long-term plan. And like I say, probably not much of a timeline at this point.
Yeah, the timeline is when we get the grant right now. We've been into that space multiple times. We continue to take evaluate it. The city actually just got clear title. It had been stuck in litigation for 5 years. If people ever wonder, well, why doesn't the city do something about that? Well, our legal system is a very cautious system about awarding property to a government. But obviously we couldn't let it sit there and continue to be in that shape. So, we really need to get some federal funding into it. I don't think that it's right for the local taxpayer to have to pay for the full demolition and removal of that. I think there are federal funds out there that we can tap into. It is kind of an unfortunate story that the city gets stuck with the bill when properties like this end up getting transferred to somebody who has no ability to take care of it. Right. And then the city has to step in and under vacant and abandon and remediate it. But in the end, we'll get that. Like I've told people, it's sad to say that it's going to be demolished, but that really there's no other use. I mean, just driving by when the door was open, you could smell the mold in it. That's how bad it is. From over 100 feet away at 25 miles an hour, you could smell the mold. I mean, it is in atrocious condition. We've got some, Mayor Lee and I have some pictures and video that we'll share out just so people are aware. It's not what you think. If you went to school there, I'm sorry. I know you've got great memories, but that's where those live. That the current condition is not what your memories have. So, we'll have to demolish that, and then that'll be a development opportunity. It's actually a decent sized lot. So, look forward to its next chapter then.
And I think we've in the past posted pictures of out of the court files when it was their pictures were submitted by the city in 2022 or 2023. That I can only imagine, 3 years since those pictures were taken. Those pictures, you can, search on our website to find that story and find those pictures. But it's just people keep thinking, why can't that be redeveloped into housing or whatever? That nobody's going to want to touch that.
Yeah.
With the bill just to get it up to code was like 30 million or something, wasn't it?
That is absolutely correct. Just not to bring it back to a functional, like let's say residential use, just to stabilize it and remediate the issues would have been 30 million by the estimate that we had when we did the analysis on it. So there's just no way that pencils out. And that estimate is going on 4 years now, and construction prices haven't got better. Right. And the structure hasn't improved. It did not magically get any better from 4 years ago.
Talking about another building that people have wanted to try to save, the Suzy Q, that was last week removed off the old Kirk Apartments property and put into storage, and maybe just kind of get us up to date on that situation, because obviously, 2 years ago, we knew that the city put in an effort, and people may not have remembered that necessarily, that the city did put in an effort to try to save that particular building, and they're continuing to do that, even though it's being moved off that property, which is ready for redevelopment.
Yeah, so this is, I'm sure you have favorite stories of the week. This is my favorite story of the week because the story that produces the most comments on Facebook that are completely inaccurate.
Oh yes.
This is that story. My wife and I laugh a little bit about that, because sometimes like the outlandish things that go
Right.
on out there, I'm like, you can have your thoughts about me or something I've done, but sometimes the creative storytelling that happens with a story is almost more amusing than the truth.
Than the actual true
Yeah.
story. Yes.
So this really, it is a cool story. It's exciting that the city is part of, preserving the Suzy Q. There's a lot of people who really love that and have warm memories of it. The reality is it just couldn't stay where it was at. The redevelopment of that lot following the Kirk fire really needed it to be moved, because it was just such an impediment to try and figure out how to use that area efficiently. So it will move. It has moved. The city did take ownership of it. We are trying to figure out a good location, something that is, we're trying to figure out something close to downtown. We had an idea. I really wanted to put along the Riverwalk, close to the intersection, down next to the multipurpose arena. But it was just too tight. There's a lot of utilities there. Believe me, I banged my head against the wall probably about 10 times trying to figure out how to make that work there, working with staff, working with, our utility partners. And it's just, there's so many utilities. It's a tight area. It's really hard to get, what you need around it to support the Suzy Q. You need to have some seating. You need to have a little bit of storage. So after many attempts, it didn't work. So now we needed to get the Suzy Q off the lot so that the development can move forward on the Kirk site for the apartments there and the commercial building there. And so with that, we're putting it into storage right now. It's on the cribbing underneath it to make it easy to lift up and put into its next location. And then we're also trying to seek some grants to help support the location, working with the State Historic Preservation Office. We want to make sure that we're respectful of it. Is a historic structure. Even with it being moved, it's historic just to the hearts and minds of Mason City, but it's also, it's one of the last diners of its kind, the Valentine Diner like that. So, or Valentine,
one of those two.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm striking distance. So, it is, we really want to make sure we do a good job with it. And so, I appreciate that everyone's passionate about it. I hopefully we can stick to what's actually happening. No, we're not dropping it in the floodplain. No, it's not going to the landfill. I don't know. There's a few other stories, but I'll let those live on Facebook.
Let those live on Facebook and not here, because we do not want that. Like I say, this has been and the other thing too, probably, are you also looking for somebody that maybe could purchase it still and utilize it as a diner if they can find the right location, or are we beyond that point? Because it's been a couple of years since the city has taken possession of it.
Yeah, I would say I'm open to any conversation. My concern was, and part of the reason the city stepped in is because it was going to leave Mason City. That was the only interest that the previous owner had was from out of state people. Sure. It is very easy to move, as we've seen. Yeah. So they were going to pluck it up. Some of them were just going to put it on their own private property. Like I think that it's an important enough part of the history of Mason City that it was good that we were able to step in and keep that. I think it's it's a cool structure. It's not very functional. Your studio here is bigger than I think the Suzy Q is on the inside. So it's a very tight space to operate, to work in. Not a lot of seats, but very cool. I feel bad for folks that haven't had a chance to get in there. I look forward to the day that we get it open again, because it is an experience to be inside there.
Yeah. We've only got about 60 seconds before we need to go quickly. People need to get ready for the changes in the sanitation system.
Yes, we've sent out a lot of information. We continue to talk about it. We will have more mailers, more stuff on social media. We are really trying to make sure that people are aware of it, talk about it here. we've got the new sanitation automated system coming out. There'll be new carts delivered to folks upcoming. Stay tuned for that. And then we'll roll out the beginning of July. We will actually have the new system kick in. So, if you've got questions, there's a whole FAQ on our website. There's a lot of how-to videos that are coming out featuring the one and only John Ushevsky.
Yes, I found that interesting.
John Ushevsky.
He's going back into his acting career, I guess.
He's a star. He's ready for his close-up. So he did a great job. John's like one of the nicest guys on the planet. So great that he humored us and helped us film those videos. So any questions, we want to make sure people are fully informed. Look at the FAQs, reach out to the city, whatever we can do. We want to have it be a clean rollout. There'll always be surprises. We don't know everything until we get out there. We try and figure out those unknowns. But I think we're in good shape, and this will be a huge improvement for the sanitation in Mason City. It's not new. Nearly every community across the city or across the state has automated sanitation because it's really where we needed to go. But change is always difficult, and it's best if we have a good communication as we move through it.
Aaron, we appreciate you joining us once again after a long absence on the program. Part of that long absence was my fault, of course, but we appreciate you having you back in and filling in for the mayor today.
Always happy to be here. Look forward to the next invite. I know I'm half the man he is, but hopefully I can provide.
I don't know if I'd say that, but
just in stature,
Exactly. Aaron, thanks again.
Yep.
City Administrator Aaron Burnett here in Mason City. That's the Ask the Mayor program today here on your hometown news station, AM 1300